active influence. What are the tools, basic tools that anybody can use, utilizing their own consciousness and minds? Uh, how how do the ones that may be lost, not knowing how to do this, start off?
Hmm. Well, as I was saying, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you for what you're doing, bringing all these seeds of consciousness to the audience and to the ones that are resonating with everything that you are doing. And well, I do believe that, and from my experience, I can say that in order to in order to generate a transformation, an inner transformation in our reality, the first step is to be tired, to be tired, and for the tiredness to be bigger than our fear to shift our reality. Because when we are tired, we will do whatever it takes to remove that state, because our nature is motion, and we are looking for motion. We are inherently, we are in this inertia, looking to move, to experience different things, even if we are in a state of, in a steady state. We are always looking to move, because that's our nature. We are energy in motion. So when we are not driven or inspired to move, then it is most likely that we will be ready to stop for a moment in order to do things differently, to get rid of that tiredness. Be- and yet, as I was saying, that tiredness shall be bigger than the fear, because actually, fear on the other side is what limits people to transform themselves. You know, like on the other hand, as I was saying, fear keeps you in a state of not moving. You're just in expectance, waiting for something to happen. So that could be translated as death, whereas motion can be translated into life.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Um, Makes one think. I mean, truthfully, that's basically what you are saying this is all about. Letting one's mind think, get to a point of reaction, correct?
Yes, yes. It normally mostly begins with reaction. If we take a look what reaction is, we will say that it's it's a brutal force of response. It's um, yeah, it's a strong force of response, a reaction, and that's normally how shifts are given. How awakening process mostly happens. There are cases, of course, that where people go through a very smooth process of awakening. However, most of the people go through big smashes of, meeting into your truth, and then having nowhere else to look at and but inside you, and then going into that magnificent journey where you actually get to know who you truly are.
Mhm.
So, and I do believe that a lot of people, now that you have mentioned reaction, I do believe that a lot of people could be right now awakening through that reaction process, because it's going through that conception of reality of polarization, whether it's good or it is bad. And that's part of the capture of a bidimensional form of perception that won't help us to finalize the process of integration of what a third density is, which is finding that point of communion in between those two poles by recognizing them and a spectrum of the same force, just at different scales, that by coming together through the singularity, they generate a third party, the communion of themselves. And when we achieve that as a collective, we transcend third density. And because we have already comprehended that time is not linear, time is not past, present, and future. Time is simultaneously coexisting as multidimensional beings. So then we are ready to face that. So we can experience that one by one. However, we have always been invited to do it collectively because we are living in unity, not unity shoulder to shoulder, yet unity where all of us as pieces of the puzzle, as long as we occupy the place that corresponds to us due to our resonance, then we are creating that harmonic field that allows us to create higher and more evolved realities.
Okay. I understand that. I do. I truly do. I kind of think I focus my life that way. And I let instincts guide my reactions. As you
Yes.
said, if you come to that place, then you're more powerful coming back in ways, and your consciousness and your acceptance and everything that enters you consciously and through thought, then you can process it um, and create different evaluations and use different footwork as to how and what you want to do. But doing this, knowing now in ways that humanity is has in a way been put into a place, what is the component in your mind and thought that has placed us here, not just because the removal of histories and everything, but things have seemed to have been taken from us? um, what are they? How does that system work in that reality that affects us in this reality that placed us here, to where we need to raise our consciousness and extend ourselves into a new reality of a level, of a new life, of a new beginning?
Hmm. Well,
Sorry, I'm deep.
you. No, I love it. Thank you for asking that. I love it. Because it was taking me to the first question, like when you ask what was that main factor detonating, the evolutive process of awakening. And one of the things that I also considered is a key is remembering who we truly are. And for me, that is actually on the other side, the amnesia is what is reflecting the reality that has been configured in other spheres of reality. Like, for instance, how this artificial reality was designed was through generating a dephase in between energetic forces. By this, I mean lacking rhythm in one another, like the time system, like the time control system. You have your biology flowing at what rhythm, and then you have the Gregorian calendar telling you that winter, like the beginning of the year is in winter, where life is still going through a hibernation process, and whereas it is originally in the spring, when life begins. So that's the beginning of the year, actually, of the organic year. And just to mention one thing, if you say that, for instance, if we go through the etymology of the months, we will see that September is related to the word in Latin septum, which is 7. October, octo, which is 8.
Eight, yeah.
November, 9. December, 10, and so forth. So like the 10 that you have behind you. So then we'll see that yeah, that then we will say, like, well, what's going on, like your biology is telling you something, your reality is telling you something else. So then that generates a dephase in between the rhythms of what you're organically emitting and what an artificially constructed reality is generating. And I say artificially because it is not organic, you know It is true, yeah, because that's a reality that we are actually enhancing and perpetuating as long as we are living by it. However, it is not organic, it's not natural. So that's why I call it artificial. So then that deface generates small gaps in between the cycles. And those gaps is what we translate as amnesia. And that amnesia will be filled in with the information that the egregores are emitting, how they were configured to create those gaps. Our ego matrix will read them as sources of life, of energy, and try to enclose them to our field if we are not aware of that. If we are aware of that, then not. And as soon as they reach into the field, they start to perpetuate and enhance that reality created by the egregores. Why? Because one of the main concerns of the ego matrix, which is the biggest anchor to the artificial matrix, is that feeling isolated. Feeling as isolated makes it feel in shadow, and then the shadow equals not being light, not being bright enough. And then it starts to begin a process of trying to be part of a reality that even though it's imprisoning you, it's making you feel safe because you belong to something.
Yes.
And that's very unconscious. Why? Because, as I was saying, it's configuration within the holographic field that as you are breathing, if you're not aware of it, you are harvesting that reality. And most of the population is doing that at this moment. Unfortunately.
It is very unfortunate. And so, in an artificial matrix of reality, when you look at that view, how did it become on us to where we now have to advocate back the way that we are? Many people have different things that they're all looking at. Social anxieties are a disaster, but we all need this enlightenment and empowerment to get to a different focus point where there is an end game for everybody that helps. Um, so, does this come through witchcraft? Does it come through manipulation of words and spells and the power of words and everything that has surrounded us in our life and our realities of existence?
Uh, well,
I mean,
yes.
something seemed to dumb the system down, that we lost the trueness of humanity somehow.
Well, I would also relate it mainly to the amnesiac state, because an amnesiac state involves lack of sovereignty, because you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. Then it comes doubt, then it comes fear, then you try to fill it in with whatever will make you feel safe and part of, even if it's a lie, even if it's imprisoning you. So of course this reality was well manufactured through words, through gematria, through algorithms, through geometrical patterns. And all of that, from the holofractal field was
Mhm.
translated into a hologram. And that hologram is actually the basis from which, let's say, imagine that you have a hologram, and then you have every intersection creates an X, right?
Okay.
That X is light. It's a particle of light. Every X is an intersection of time and space. And that's what we get to see, right? We get to see that luminescent pattern, which we are, translated into matter. But what about the space in between every intersection? And that's actually what is shaping our reality, what is shaping us. And if we don't tune into that space, which is actually also what unifies us, then we are living in an idea of separation. And that separation will create even bigger gaps in which all these control systems come as saviors to say, don't worry, you're not alone. I've got your back. If you don't know how, if you don't remember how, I've got your back. I will show you how. Moreover, mostly, I won't show you how. I will do the how, and you will just follow me, you know?
Mhm.
And that, as I was saying, all that was created through algorithms from the holographic field using the sixth density to create that hologram through patterns. And imagine that the human body is a holographic vessel, and you are putting in each intersection very specific anchors that, as antennas, will be leading you to that information, to that egregor, as the origin, the point of origin to your nature, whether if, even if it's not, So us focusing in bringing in the pieces together by connecting to that space that interconnects us all will allow to fill in the gaps with a unified consciousness, and knowing that there is no separation, and that of course there is like a material separation, there is a distance. What I mean by there is no separation is that there is always an effect from what I do onto the surround what is surrounding me, the information that is surrounding me. And when we become responsible for that, then we're capable to create more evolved and wise realities. And I'm talking overall, any force cannot detach from the fundamental and universal laws. So that the only thing is that if we are peons for those
Mhm.
control systems, then they can wash their hands. They can wash off their hands and say, no, it's not us. It's their own will. They're doing it, you
Right.
know? So that's the moment when you start questioning yourself, you know? And of course, as I was saying, questioning oneself involves commitment, involves responsibility, involves going beyond that fear of not controlling things, because that's also very entangled to the field of predictability. We like to predict things. We like to, because we like to move through the quantum. We want to know what will happen. So when we are not capable to dictate what is going to happen, then most people move back, you know, for other ones to go ahead. But they are not aware that they were themselves that were sent as peons to go ahead and do the dirty work for others to ascend, or well, not to ascend, to go higher in hierarchy,
Okay.
illusion, illusion hierarchy.
Well, that was very detailed and lengthy, but in a good way. I mean, because you touched on a lot of things that I would have probably made mention of, and now I don't have to. So that makes my life a little bit easier. But you keep talking about unity, and I've always said unity is very important. All together, together as one. All those fascinating words and statements that have contradicted many things, but also have helped many things. Again. We are ourselves living in a system of so many things in front of us, but not knowing how to peel the layers away in order to enter into other systems of the light and positivity. But a lot of people are trying the best. And I go back in my mind to thought is what some of the ancients did, what their practices were, what helped healing, what helped focal points of better meditation. And it goes back to us relying on us as humanity, not as the made up system of the holographical matrix system of I can do for you. And then you just accept, where you lay back and you become that peon. In my mind, I love that phrase, by the way. I haven't heard it for many years, but it's true. And, people need to get away from that. And I think that we are consciously all aware now. I think there's a better vibration. Would you not think that even though we're seeing things that we don't even like to make mention of, I think we are coming into something that is going to pull us in a more way where we are more unified, because I think we needed to be awakening by seeing certain events, certain things through the passages of time and present to bring us to this point of where we can elevate, as you said, and rise, or go to a higher place, whether it's for mental and purposes, physical purposes. These all are very important factors. What are your thoughts, though, when if you were to walk into a room and it was in ancient times and you could place yourself there and you see 500 people and they're all working with frequency? We do know through testing and data, when people think one thought and they go into a room, that there is a significance of energy changing levels that occur. So, how do we do that when we're so separated from people? Because people won't do chanting, people won't go to a place like that. Most people will not. How could I be able to influence people to, come closer together, to unify that way, to where things have a stronger outlook for the purpose of humanity?
Well, from my experience, and how I um, how I remember it is that the best way to transform our reality is through our own embodiment. Normally, we were taught that a solution to something is coming from the outside, like cracking the eggshell from the outside, yet that represents that. If we are cracking the eggshell from the inside, then it represents life. So I do believe that when we go through that inner journey and we are mostly focused in embodying our words, then that field of coherence that we are emanating is so powerful that it will start to activate the dormant codes of others that are actually alpha codes, not the ones that are currently activated in most people. The ones dormant uh, could be named the alpha codes, because those are the primordial ones, and we know that alpha is the beginning, so those are the primordial ones. So it's just about calling in memories. It's like, if you're singing a song, now that you were mentioning about singing a song, if you sing a song that people relate to, or that people remember, they know, if you sing it from your heart, if people doesn't start singing it with you out loud, perhaps they will start humming. And this is a soul to soul connection. Perhaps I'm not talking about an example, like a literal example, yet I'm talking about in terms of frequency. If you start to resonate through the frequency of the pristine codes within your soul, coming from that spiritual connection with the source to all, then that level of coherence, even if you look at it in quantum physics, that level of coherence is going to expand and start to activate other, let's say, other neurons that are resonating originally at the same level, and then they will start to generate all this interconnection, all this synapses process. So, and other thing that what I do believe is that it's very important is that when we understand that we're not saving anyone, that if we are coming from a space that we are just bringing like outloading the information that we are sharing for whenever for whoever feels in resonance, then we are not imposing our form of perception to anyone or removing the power, castrating anyone, like by making them believe that we are more powerful than them so that we need to save them. No, because then we would be creating another form of religion, or a sect. So when we're just sharing the information and, of course, supporting each other, from our strengths, um, it comes from a space of sovereignty and freedom, and that will actually create an effect in and in at the scales, as the wave distribution. And that's one thing. And another thing is that when we think that our truth is better than the others, we're just playing a different pole from what those control systems are doing
Yeah.
to us. So it's just back and forward, back and forward. So it's just about focusing, like detaching and focusing in the model that actually we want to create, because then our power is within us. So that's the most important. Is have you ever seen like one of those videos where, I don't know, well, actually I think I'm creating it, but it could be like that. But like you have a place full of garbage, and
Okay.
you have a lot of people crossing through that space and not even minding about the garbage. And then there comes a little kid with his or her father or mother holding their hands, and then looks at all the garbage and stops and says, "Hey, I have to do something about this." And she starts picking up the garbage and putting it into the trash can. And then her mom or his mom or father will follow up and start doing the same thing. And then more people will come and start picking up the garbage. Differently, that as the little boys say, "Hey, you're so look at what you have done, like, don't be like that, and help me clean." A
Yeah.
lot of adults will come and look at him and laugh, like, "No, I have things to do. I have more important things to do." So it's not the power of convincing through the cognitive thinking, because then you're ego to ego, ego against ego. Yet if you go through the power of the heart, then not even words are needed. It's the frequency that molds, that shapes the reality.
Yeah. So the better we react to the circumstances that come forth in front of us, the better result we will have. And what I was thinking of, and I know unintentionally you never meant for this to happen, was it reminded me of where we are right now. And I was thinking of this little boy at the White House cleaning up all the trash and removing it out to the street, And again, I'm not trying to go political, but in my head, it's what I'm feeling right now. And if I don't tell the truth about what's in my heart, then I'm a false prophet of anything that I speak. And you made me think and relate myself to a situation that it surrounds many of us. So, all right, we'll move away from that because I think we touched a lot of bases within that foundation of where we went. What is it about man and a woman? Womb, the womb of the woman, the portal of life, the woman. A lot of people don't look at it that way. I do. Anyone can use it. I don't care. But I look at it that way. What is it about the residency of how that vibration is that makes it so special? Because it is. There's something about why everything is the way it is. And that seems when the only time normalcy is upon us is in those some of those most intimate moments, and also when we meet somebody, the frequencies are at the highest points, the vibrations, and each other pick up from each other from it. Is it because we are part of the source? We are creation with the source.
Yes, yes, of course. As fractals of the source to all, then we have the same pattern of behavior, just at different scales. So we're just reproducing and we are generating a state of awareness, mirroring into the source. You know, if we want to know how we function, then we can look at the source, at the universe, and then we will comprehend how we work at a smaller scale, you know, or the other way around. If we see how a proton uh, behaves, then we will most likely see how our nature of reality unfolds. So, for instance, you were mentioning the womb in relation to the potential energy. I do believe that, for instance, now with everything that is happening like worldwide, we can definitely see, like social wise, that there is a gap that is trying to be reinforced in between genders, the man and the woman, you know, like that process of transition, whether first matriarchy, then patriarchy, then matriarchy again or not, you know, like putting it just as trends that are senseless from an essential uh, an essential meaning to it, you know. By this I mean, like, for instance, when people those just are using again as peons, men and women to be face for a specific social, um, let's say, intentions, you know, to anchor very specific stages of evolution, now putting men against women, then you will create a progressive um, uh, form of behavior in which, for instance, women will start to feel more and more and more and more and more and more separated from the men, like blaming everything, you know, to that masculine part of it, and the way around, you know, the masculine, the man, putting and blaming a lot on the feminine aspect or to the woman, you know, and then saying that, going through that victimization process, in which in the end it's like failing the era of Pisces, because the two fishes haven't come together, have not come together, because they are chasing different beliefs or different purposes. And this even happens at a brain scale, like the way that our uh, right hemisphere and left hemisphere perceive frequencies is different. You know, they're literally perceiving frequency at a different range. So uh, now, how would this be translated, or how could this influence what you were saying about, you know, like the power of the womb, and, you know, like a beautiful, like, way to see it, by the way. It's that if we say that the feminine, like in terms of quantum physics or physics, uh, the feminine is the potential energy, the one that is capable to create, to bring life. And the masculine is the kinetic energy, which is that result of the potential energy brought into coherence and then expanded like the sun. Then we will see that both forces need one another, you know, and that all this subtle way of approaching the genders, you know, it's just part of trying to separate again the inner truth of our own masculine and feminine aspect to ourselves, which also can be translated as the analytical part, the rational part, and the sensorial part, the sensitive part, you know. And then this also can translate at so many layers that you will see it's not only about a romantic form of perception of reality, like, yeah, a woman and man should come together and be in unity and love each other. No, it's mostly, of course, that involves, but it's mostly about understanding that our reality is just a reflection of ourselves. And we could ask ourselves if our feminine energy is angry at our masculine energy, and if our masculine energy is angry at our feminine energy, and then social chaos, it is the core of separation. Because if you have a separated society, even Napoleon said it, separate the forces and you will win, you know? So if you're separating societies into races, into genders, into beliefs, we know the result. We have gone through that.
Yeah, we've seen it. Yeah. One of the things that came to my mind was if you remove the queen from the beehive, the hive fails.
Hmm.
Everything becomes a loss. And if you use propaganda to womanize or demean against the feminine, you destroy it. Same with the man. And ways why and why is it necessary? And that becomes part of the system of you are at the lowest point and reaction becomes the action. We I think we're all doing it. I think we're all in a place of something, experiencing something, but we don't have all the cures to it. You as an advisor who speaks on this, a teacher that tries to give proper balanced guidance to people, I take my hat off to you because there's not enough of that out there that is sharing words of
Thank you.
prosperity and positivity that could help humanity so much. And I feel bad that people aren't aware of the system and how great a system that you work within, um, and what it means and how it plays a part in the future. One of the things that I do want to bring up and ask you if you have any knowledge on, or if this is something you work within, as far as like minerals and crystals and cedar branches and frequency discs, to ward off things, to keep cleanliness to one's own aura and energy. How are your feelings around that? And do you, in fact, yourself use these things, or would you suggest that people should? Yeah, I know, but a lot of people won't recognize what I may see.
Yeah, I know. Well, yes, actually, crystals are, well, have many benefits using crystals. Crystals storage information. Crystals are actually their pattern, the geometrical pattern that they generate through their molecular structure is the very same fundamental pattern that creates and constructs the universe. So imagine how powerful they are interconnecting all the information. So for instance, you can codify crystals. Crystals themselves, due to their color and their frequency, imagine that they are ketones. Each crystal has a different frequency, and based on that frequency is what it will be bringing to your electromagnetic field. So, for instance, it's not the same an amethyst that a moldavite. One it helps more to connect, for instance, the moldavite to ETs and to like hyperspace and other dimensions, just to mention three of its benefits, whereas an amethyst will help you to transmute very specific parts of your body, will help you also to reconnect and restore very specific connections to or memories to specific stages of human foundation. And also it can help you to release and protect you from very specific frequencies.
Yeah.
So there are like those inner benefits of the crystals, and you can also encode them. You can program them. If we're saying that everything is energy, and energy is information, so it has a very specific given information, and we can also codify that information to a very specific purpose. I can uh, connect with the consciousness of, for instance, let's say, sapphire that I have. And as we know, crystals have their own consciousness. They're sentient. They are aware. If we don't listen to them, like literally, a mouth being generated from the crystal and speaking right to us, it's not because it doesn't exist. It's because it exists at a deeper layer beyond the veil. We can connect with them. They have a very specific consciousness. And the more that we intimate with them, the more that they will give us feedback and actually respond to that which we codify in them. We know that crystals are used in clocks. They're used in all technology. They're used in all technology because they have a high level of oscillation. Everything oscillates in this universe. However, they are oscillating at a very coherent speed. So what does this represent? Motion and creation, because the more that something oscillates, the more that it's capable to modify the molecular structure of something, because it ends up compressing the energy into density energy. But anyway, and then go through a process of transformation. So yeah, and yeah, I do believe that, for instance, in the ancient times, crystals were used. Like common stream archaeologists would refer that just to a merely intention of glamming up, like looking beautiful. And it was not. Perhaps it was also, but the main purpose of using crystals was to accelerate or emphasize the connection with very specific matrices.
Right.
So I do believe it's important, and even we can plant crystals in the earth with very specific intentions and purposes for expanding unified consciousness or love or whatever. A lot of people is doing that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great answer. Let's just for a minute say hello to some people here. I
Yes.
do at times mark if you have a question, please write in caps so I can identify that. And we will. Ernie, I saw that you put something up. Ernie, thank you for being here. He's a really great guy. Really, really great guy. Ronald, River Rose, she's everywhere and she researches everything. Really is. She's a rock star.
Mhm.
Um, it's fascinating what people are doing and the work that they even do quietly, but share it within all of us. So, what's his question here? So, I put it up on the board. I got the right one or the wrong one? So, the two frequencies combined create. I I guess they can. In my outlook of it, it just depends upon uh, the system that it's within. What are your I mean, I'm not exactly sure why he went there. We probably surpassed that point of what we were discussing, but can two frequencies combine and create? Well, as man and woman could, if you just look at the energy of it and the vibration of the energy that becomes from it, I would look at that as saying, of course, and it also would fall into place on plants and trees and everything else in life that is on this planet that we know we have. Everything is part of the source. When I look out the window, and because some things go dormant doesn't mean they won't come back. And I agree totally. We celebrate the first of the year, as if it's a celebration in the United States. But the truth of it is, I believe it reflects the first flower of spring. and that is the resurrection of how life is and how it changes. But again, when words accompany conditioning and education and systems of that, which are down, the way I look at it, the systems of the down, you're not getting all the factual information. So you have to think out of the box on that and collect all the data and research that one could. But I think that maybe what he was referring to, and I could be wrong, because I would say if we can correct an imbalance, then by participating using mind and energy and focus, then I think that kind of answers his question of two frequencies combined can't create. Sure, why not? Trees don't touch, but they pollinate. They use a different type of elements of how they're using frequencies between each other. Even if one's 50 feet apart, it could be pollinating the other one. They're not next to each other like you and I may be in a bar, and there's something. This is, and even within separation, it still exists. The source is much stronger than overall anything out there, in my mind.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I do perceive that what he was referring to was precisely to the kinetic and potential force. You know, like when they combine, they create, and yeah, one leads to another. And of course, like together they manifest. That's what I was saying. You know, about the two apparently different forces that are one constant, just at a different spectrum
Hmm.
of that constant. When we acknowledge that, then we're capable to unify those forces and create a third party of it, that third density, which allows us to comprehend the purpose of why we're experiencing a third density and move forward. So, yeah, and you were saying now that you were responding to his question. You were mentioning about like the source to all and how everything comes from it, and I do believe that's key for the unified consciousness.
Right.
And then again, like remembering, as how I perceive it, that what we could consider as bad guys, or like negative forces, are just amnesiac forces that have forgotten that they are part of the source to all. So they just need to remember where they come from, their origin. So it comes all to the point of origin, somehow. So yeah, it's a process of remembrance. And even if we go to the word, in Latin, which is remember, which is recordare, which is which is going back to, and cordare, which is, or cordis, which is the heart, going back to the heart. So that's
Interesting.
about remembering in Latin, recordare.
I'm gonna have to file that.
Yeah.
I that this is the part of what makes life so interesting. Learning and processing. I love it. There was something else I was thinking about. You mentioned that there are crystals that can actually help you benefit in consciousness to that reflect maybe to aliens and light beings and things of that. Um, and your research and all of your thought and process that you do within yourself, um, what is the reflection of that truly about of this existence? Are there is everything premeditated, pre-planned, and they are the ones controlling that network? Are they the watchers, the ones from the towers? That once towers were everywhere and now not so much more, but they were considered to be the watchtowers, the towers where the watchers would go, and so forth. Are they part of that, of how the consciousness level of the quantum aspect of the matrix becomes one?
Yeah, as we are saying, all this hierarchy process, um, where, for instance, I do even perceive and remember that a lot of what we relate as ET species or the galactic community
Right.
is ourselves, just from another spatiotemporal constant. And
Okay.
we are reaching out to ourselves to help us and to support us throughout this remembrance process. So that's also another way of not isolating ourselves from that which is being reflected to us through our eyes. It's finding that point of communion when I recognize myself within those beings, because I know that at some point it's just, as multidimensional beings, it's just a reflection of myself, allowing me to remember specific things, or upgrade very specific things. Now, of course, as in everything, there is like this positive and negative aspect to it, as how we can translate it. We can say harmonious or more dissonant aspect to it. And even in those cases, I do believe that the more that we integrate the cosmic nature of it as part of our own experiencing and choices, the more that we are capable actually to influence them, whether if it's to enhance them or to neutralize them. It's only when we acknowledge ourselves in the center of the whole creation that we are capable to influence it. Otherwise, we're just being part of the inertia of the motion. It's like, for instance, when you're just focusing in the effect, trying to solve things through the effect. No, you might solve them temporarily. Yet if you reach the origin, you will actually do something about it. And these ETs, like they have so much wisdom, and technology, that when we tune into our own archives, we can access to that information, because actually through the infinite field of probabilities, we have already activated that technology and that wisdom. It's nothing new. We're not bringing nothing new to this reality. We're just picking up spatiotemporal constants or timelines, and weakening some of them and strengthening others. And actually, the ones that we get to feel empathy with, we make them more powerful. And if we're empathic with love, we are creating a thrive space. If we are generating empathy with fear, then we are creating a reality based on that. So it's also where we are focusing our empathy, the power of our empathy too.
Okay. All right. So I'm with you, and I'm in check 100% on your answer to that. But it also took me to a different place while you were talking, and I was doing a little side thinking, and I'm listening, of course.
Yes.
A little hard to do both, but people can do two things at once. It just depends, consciously, if you've evolved to that point, because many people cannot do two things at one time. I can listen and write a page out while I'm listening to somebody and still get everything down on paper that I wanted to. And it makes me just wonder, as you said, the ET, and they're far advanced in ways. And, when we look at the whole scope and the realm of the picture, if they have a lot to do with this here, they probably had a lot to do with our creation in ways. But it seems to me that, the battle comes from two sides of something, one being light, one being dark. And, boy, wouldn't that be some really fascinating cartoon or show for them to be watching in a way? But yet at the same time, they're helpful. So, how do we balance that checkpoint, knowing that this existence is here, knowing that everything's been put in place, knowing that we have the light, we have the dark? How do we, best address that for our own consciousness to be satisfied with an answer?
Well, again, from my experience and remembrance, as we dive in to our own universe, then we are capable to transform everything if we know how to. Of course, there are realities as a unified consciousness, there are shared realities because each one of us is an antenna. So every antenna is creating its own reality. Some of those realities are not very likely to generate any desire to be embodied. Other ones are really nice and pleasant, and like they invite you to be in those kind of creations. So even in that process, which as a collective we're manifesting, I do see that the more that we become responsible for our own garden, the more that we are planting those seeds of consciousness, because sometimes trying to solve the problems outside will lead us to um, to lose focus from our own reality and then being responsible for it. So as long as you have balance in both of them, then go ahead. I mean, you can choose either way, whatever you want. I'm talking generally.
Yeah.
But for instance, when we see the delicate power of how we can influence reality through the whole of fractal field, then we really tune into that. We are shifting realities. Like, for instance, uh, like more in an earthly basis, let's say, going more earthly basis. When you find a point in communion that detonates or triggers deep emotions within you, you have an egregor. Whether if it's for something positive or something or some or other, different purpose. For instance, now when there were the hurricanes and a lot of people were summing up, to do energetic work, prayers, this, that, each one planting their own seeds. And what happened? Like our reality shifted big time
Yes.
because we were focused in the solution, not in the problem.
Right.
That is the key. So if we ask ourselves, okay, what are your solutions? We know what is good to be transformed. We know. Now, what are your solutions? And if those solutions are resonant to one another, then we are creating a very powerful and strong field in which we won't even be when where we won't even need to take care of the variants or let's say decided effects, because the core is so strong that we know what we will be emitting from it, which is as positive as what we are planting. So I do believe that then again that's a key, focusing on in the solution.
And it also goes back to what you said: unity, unification, people coming together. Man knew what to humanity knew what to do exactly. In that moment, as we learned the things, as we recognized the things, as certain things were exposed for us to be able to also learn from the things that of that disaster. But while we're trying to use our natural abilities, they are interfering also with different mechanisms, man versus machine, of course. It reflects to something, Hollywood, music, all these different things, but there's messages everywhere, symbols everywhere. The great Jordan Maxwell always spoke about them, just always said, stay aware, stay on top of them. And I try to do that. But I try to take everybody's information and utilize it the best I can, because, To me, that is how you keep going further up that chain, the process in the chain, getting to the top of the links where you don't have to climb no more. And you finally have freedom of humanity. And your soul becomes actually the product of who and everything that you are that why you were here. But when we're doing that, we're still battling things and technologies and so forth. Is that going to be a greater conflict into the future? I'm just wondering how you feel about that, because they have so much and so many things. No matter how they got it, or what alien race may have helped them with it, it's here, and it's to resonate an issue, a problem towards humanity. Um, how do you feel on that type of outcome as we go into the future, doing the best we can with everything we've discussed, keeping all those points of focus first, always in the forefront of the first? Um, it always seems to return, or there'll be something in place that we can never get to remove.
Hmm. Well, I do believe that and feel that the certainty is not going to be given by a factor outside. The certainty will be given from within. Of course, our outside is manifesting that feedback of what we are, on to some extent, emitting, and then the universe is giving its feedback. So that's why we need to be aware of within, because then we see, why are we manifesting this? Like, why are we manifesting this? Like, for instance, oppression. Like, am I oppressing myself? And how? So then I shall correct it. Um, let's say, like, whatever you see, whatever you pick up that your reality is showing to you, it's time for you to ask yourself if you are delivering towards yourself onto some extent in that way. And if so, correct it, transform it. So then, if one by one start doing that, we will create and manifest that reality in the level of coherence of that which we are manifesting from within. So normally, when we talk about these topics of what could happen, it starts to generate a lot of uncertainty, because timelines are shifting all the time. Spatiotemporal constants are shifting all the time. Why? Because we live in impermanence. We are continuously evolving. Who we were before, it's 1 minute ago, is not the same to who we are now.
Right.
So when we comprehend that, then we detach from false or temporal expectations and just focus in what we are doing right here, right now. Because actually, the energy that we emit through our thoughts is super powerful. Actually, the brain, the energy that we are all the time generating through our brain is massive. So imagine all those thoughts that people is, or that we could be, delivering to a specific timeline of what can happen. And we agree that that is what will happen, because we cannot deny the truth. We cannot deny the factors of astronomical events, of history, of cycles, of what we are seeing in front. Yeah, we cannot deny it. And we can actually measure and predict a reality based on that. However, how many times our reality has shown to us that even though we had measured all the constants, and the cycles, and predicted that, how many times it can not happen that way? And how many times it happens that way? What it depends on who we are in the present, at that moment, at that space. What are we resonating that we come to open through our field? So yeah, I know that I mean, we cannot stop talking about what we feel that can happen. It's like something that drives our attention. Of course,
Yeah.
we like to know, we like to predict, we like to, of course, it's part and it's beautiful and it's, however, I in my experience and how I embody it is that I try to focus more of my energy in what I am deriving at every moment, who I am at every moment, so that keeps in the required coherence to manifest that reality. I'm not saying it will be perfect, like as all of us, we are in this path, like continuously evolving. However, that act of humbleness in which we go in and then from in manifest without, that is an order in the process of creation, you know so yeah, bottom line, I do believe that we will end up manifesting whatever we are resonating, even though it's far from what we are predicting at this moment.
Just keep working on ourselves.
Yes, yes, because even if you look at it, like the energy, the magnetic pole shift in the earth, what is it talking about? It's talking north to south, south to north. We can see this in ancient texts, how
Yeah.
they describe how everything was the way around. So, and if we go innerly and translate it, what's happening? We are torsioning our beliefs. What we thought was true is not true anymore. What we thought it was a lie, it's true now. So we are coming to that point of torsion, our belief system, to create another one. Now we will create that cycle again if we just go from pole to pole. Whatever was good now, bad. Whatever was good before, it's now bad. Whatever was bad before, it's good now. So then, what would be that torsion, even a bigger torsion of reality, which is acknowledging that neither of both was good nor bad. It's just what it is. So now how are we going to play with that energy? So
Right.
then that torsion of belief systems come to detach from all beliefs, bring the energy to ourselves, and then focus on creating the reality that we want to create.
Right.
And even there are many ETs, like working on the magnetic pole shift, because if there is something that at least the 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 mainstreams that I have that have reached my field, is that there is nothing definitive. There is nothing, like in relation to this. It's not written in paper. It's a choice. And yeah, the goal is to achieve it in unity because we are a collective. So that's the interesting part.
Yeah. So science doesn't always weight a fact in a certain way, in a certain view. As you said, anything could change at any given moment, and that's just part of the system. It's doesn't have a perfect design, and not everything within it is perfect. But we know that we as people can do the best we can to try to be a perfect sense in the word for humanity. For a better outcome and for stronger future components and just life within whatever this existence is, that it becomes more peaceful in ways. And hopefully humanity will find those scenarios and people will once again come together somehow. But there's always the effect to me that I look at is there's always been the role model effect, so to speak, where people fall victim to certain things and forget. And I just that I feel bad about, because we have children locked behind technology. But you know what? I'm as guilty as that as the next person. Look what I'm doing here. It almost becomes uh, a, a sense of I need to keep going, but how far do I really want to go? Well, I guess that's up to me, up to who I am as an individual, up to my energy levels, helping me think and guide me. Whatever is taking place, I guess in many of us are the factors of how the outcomes will be. We could be getting influenced just because the frequency of messages shooting and darting all through the ethernet of the earth, these things here that shoot all these, it takes a split, not even a second to get to somebody across the world, but they remain out here somewhere somehow, and we connect even though we don't understand that we connect. But I think it's part of the energy field of distraction in certain ways, but also guidance. What makes a person act the way they do and just turn in a moment? Is it because somehow through all this, something of a bad frequency just somehow infiltrated his energy? To say it the best way I think I can. But as you said, there's no real outlook as to outcome except for the fact when we react the best we can.
Yes. For instance, now that you were mentioning that, of course, we recognize that there are very specific, let's say, matrices that focus on energetic, like many forms of attaching to people's electromagnetic field, to generate dissonance, distortion, fissures in the torus, like bam, bam, bam. Okay, that's a reality. Now what? You know, because if we keep from a standing point where we are victims of that system, then we're not going anywhere. However, if we have shown that we are mature enough to take care about it and actually use those events to strengthen our field, then we're actually doing our homework, you know? And I do believe that's one of the things why we signed here for, to remember and to prove to ourselves that we're mature enough to stop raising fingers against one another and actually start doing something about it, from our field. There are very strong events that are happening at this moment at many scales, and when we talk about the positive and the negative and neutrality, I know that emotionally it can be triggering, because how can you not feel empathy to the things that humanity is going through? Of course we feel. And there's
Right.
that's actually what inspired us to make it better. Like, if we cannot directly do something about it, talking and complaining about it won't also make a difference. What will make a difference if we cannot directly physically influence that? Then we start to go through our inner reflection and see how could I possibly be sustaining that reality, and then doing something about it, or actually, emanating, harmony and transformation to all of that. Actioning, yes, actioning. I do believe that the most powerful form of actioning is when the core is coherent. That
Mhm.
when I can say, okay, I have gone through that, I have worked that, okay, now I can actually emanate from the core what I'm truly wishing for them to experience right now.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. But it gives us still a future of work to work on and work within. In my mind, in my mindset. I've enjoyed this so much, so much. And I know I'm going to be putting this forth on the table for the radio. So I want to work on you a little bit now for a few minutes. I know you've been working on the cube. I watch you. I've been
Mhm.
listening.
Mhm.
Would you care to share a little bit about it and let people know how they can watch your part one, your part two of that, and let them know who you are, how they can, whether it's to follow you on Facebook or somewhere else? Please share.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Well, yes. Regarding to the cube, one of the artifacts that I have tuned into before it was adapted uh, at more contemporary stage of history
Hmm.
is the cube. Before the cubes that we get to see right now existed, there were other forms of cubes, that would store a lot of information as matrices. And those matrices were used for many purposes, from uh, Stargate purposes all the way to uh, connecting with arcs and interweaving, very specific configurations of the primordial matrix, the connection to the primordial matrix, not the artificial one. So, of course, there were forces that were inspired by this technology and then recreated that technology for different purposes. So, I'm talking about this, how also the cube is related to the DNA, how the cube is related to the control system of time, and also beyond the control system of time, which is actually just unfolding the cube, going beyond that incubation state. Because if we see that we came to this reality and we are going through an incubation process, as a preparation for something else, what? Well, and when does that incubation finishes? Like the babies go through 9 months. So if a baby is born in 6 months, then it will wait 3 months, 7, 2, and so forth. So when does that incubation finishes for us? And actually, it's continuously coming to an intermittent end, and then continuing as long as we are embodying here. And we're capable to unfold our cube and go to the hyperspace or to the base reality and come back, and so forth. um, and there is very specific parts of our body that enable that process. A lot of people that were initiated in ancient techniques knew this and used this. A lot of people calls it as the Merkaba, which actually comes even the word cube, which is Kaba. So Mer is the highest form of the cube, which is that cube unfolding, and using very specific free energy that we're capable to generate with our own body, to going beyond to go through the continuum of space time and beyond. So yeah, I'm sharing about this information, a lot of related to the DNA activation, to the plasma body activation, which is one of the biggest upgrades that that as humanity we are required to deliver, to embody, because the reality will start talking. It's somehow to a way to say it. It will start talking in terms of plasma. Like there will be plasma enhancement at many layers. So if we don't follow that tide, then our body will be defaced from that reality. And when I say that there will be like plasma coming through a lot through the field, I'm talking through 0 point energy, like stronger solar flares, upgrades in our DNA that happen due to our plasma levels that are going higher, they're expanding. And if we don't know how our plasma body functions, it's like just slipping gold uh, the drain, without using it. So I do believe, and I do have received that it is imperant. We used it at some point at an ancient stage. It was something common. It's how your psionic skills function, and more things. So that's also something that I am sharing now. The source code, your geometrical body, how to create your reality from the holofractal reality, the holofractographic field, which is then again going to the core to create your reality. And people can reach out to me. My web continues now. I'm upgrading a lot of information, and also products, and so it's taking uh, some time. So, but it will be done soon. Well, before this year, I want to say. Okay, so
Everything takes time.
yeah, and
Sure does.
yeah, the perfect time to blossom, right? To blossom.
Why not? There's no time like the present, and with that pain, there is no gain. And words have power. And again, it's everything we've been talking about. Now you need to just do what you do, and if you do it, you're going to be out there. But you everyone needs their moments, their relaxation. They come back with better energies. We all go through it. You're going to be fine. I've been following you from a distance. I'm sorry, I'm not one of these, you know, nutso persons. I do it because I love topic. I love subject matter, and I can't tell you how happy it's been, an honor to have you on. I want to wish you safety as you're going to be traveling too, and with in that you get more recognized for your talents and your skills as an advisor of the positive and the light, and your focus trying to keep humanity on a mission to betterment, because that's what you're doing. You're skillfully working to make things better, and we're all doing that in our own little ways. But your way's real difficult. A lot of people aren't accepting the thing. Sometimes they think, oh well, you know what, it sounds like a conspiracy from here. And why? What makes it one? What really makes it one? Because everything now should kind of reflect in the opposite way, if anything. But I do want to thank you again for being here. It's been a pleasure having you. So when your website and everything's done, if you get it to me or any other added information, I can post it around for you. I have groups. I do different levels of conversations and discussions with people, from what's in the skies through abductions. I do cryptids. I do a lot of things because there's a lot of fascinating things happening in the world with people, whether they are in the creation of their own system of the hologram or holographic matrix system, that they are, I don't know. But I find it fascinating and, educational to some degree. I don't know exactly myself what I have come to decide yet. I'm still trying to get it and take it all in, but I know I do one thing right. I try to stay respectful, peaceful, and lovable. That's
Yes.
my, that's all I can be, really. That's all I can be. But again, any final thoughts and words?
Well, yes. Before saying that, like, if people want to reach out to me now, they can do it through my Facebook and my Instagram and my YouTube channel, and also like it's Isha Ars Lib or Isha Arsate Libien. I have you can contact me to my email omnivision.hunuk@outlook.com to know more about the one-on-one sessions, online courses that I'm currently facilitating, my upcoming book in English, trips to Mexico. It's the one that will come first, and also to the conferences that I have been invited, where I will be talking. You will have all that information in Sedona, Rising of the Guardians, and in also in July, a Full Disclosure Now conference. yeah, I'm very honored and happy to be in those events.
That's
Um,
right. You were with Brian Sang, weren't you?
yes,
Brian and I did format shows for him on the 2024 disclosure, and had Brian on a couple times with me. Fascinating young man. I hope his little baby's doing so good. I kind of felt the way he shared it out. We were all like the grandparents for him, being a part of his network of family. But yeah, you're right, and I think this year is going to be off the hook. It's just going to be amazingly big, and I'm going to do whatever I can to keep promoting and helping him, as well as
awesome.
some of the other things and people that I've been able to, have the pleasure of being received by, and having them on shows. It's a fascinating way to have growth, in life. So many special people, so many special topics.
Yes,
It keeps
yes.
the vibration of me going. I got the good frequency. I promise you, I really do.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
Thank you so
definitely.
much.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I have so many things to put now in the content of my website. So it will be powerful, and I will be giving to you the link to it. But
Okay.
yeah, just trying to put everything together so that it manifests everything that is happening right now.
I
So
know.
yeah, last words. Well, thank you again for having me. And the nature of reality allows the observer to become aware of the own feedback that the universe is giving as a result of your actions, of your thoughts, of your emotions. So the key to actually align to that source to all is becoming as responsible with our creation as the source to all is, not as an obsession, yet as an organic flow of our true and original nature, which is love. So thank you.
Thank you back. Big hug.
Big
Appreciate you. And thank you all out there, no matter where you are. I hope you received a lot of this information as positive, and it will keep you balanced and focused in ways when I can't be there, or one of my guests can't be there. But it's all for good purpose, and loving thoughts and so forth. It truly is, and I think that's a focus point that we all need out there. My final words are to everybody today is thank you so much. Please like and share. You've been listening to Oracle Talk Radio, the network that matters. And by the way, you can get your free app on Apple and Google. Plenty of good shows, something for everybody. And this is one of them. This is one of them. You'll be able to go back and reflect into the shows, pick up so many. If you can't find, I got 560 of them on Facebook. I mean, just thousands of hours, but it's not about me. It's really about everybody. The content's just amazing. Oracle Talk Radio. And get your app today on that. I get nothing for that. I really don't. But have a great night, and thank you for being here. Like and share to everybody and all your friends. Have a great, pleasant evening, and happy Halloween if I don't see you.
Mhm.